Good morning. Barry Bryson here. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. We're going to conclude our study of the Beatitudes today by summarizing some of the things that we learned. Let's not forget that in Matthew's Gospel, which is a Jewish gospel, a gospel written to a primarily Jewish audience, an audience at least with a Jewish background, an audience that doesn't need to have things explained to them like the holy days or Hebrew phrases. It is part of the first of 5 sermons in the gospel, and it's the very first of those, first part of that first sermon. And if there is any place we turn in the Gospels to read about Christian living, what it means to live as a disciple, with Jesus at the center of our lives, but in the midst of a sinful world, we turn to the Sermon on the Mount. Remember, we talked about the geometry of the sermon, that Jesus sat down, the crowds were surrounding him, his disciples came out and surrounded him in a smaller circle. And it was really showing us who we are and what this sermon is for, which is to teach us how to live lives where Jesus is at the center, but we're living in a sinful world. And we said that it's the necessary first step for Jesus in this sermon, because he is changing the way we see everything. He's completely taking our glasses away from us and giving us a new pair so that we see the world the way he sees it. We see the world through the lens of his sacrifice. And when we see that, things we think of as blessings are not so much. And things we think of as burdens to be avoided are actually blessings, like giving mercy or being persecuted. That's what he does. We also mentioned last time we were together that there's a probability there is a logical succession in the giving of these Beatitudes, that one builds upon the next. That we start with the very first thing we need to realize, that we have need, that we are beggarly in spirit. In verse 3, we are not sufficient in ourselves, and we grow to the place where in verses 10 and 11 we can understand that when we are persecuted and mistreated, that just gives us deeper communion with Jesus, and not just with Jesus, but with all of God's people, past, present, and future. And I want us to remember also the themes that we talked about. That it is assumed in all of these that God is good, that God is in control, that God is the source of all. There is an eschatological consciousness that there is going to be a future, that good has and always will triumph over evil, that there will be reward and there will be punishment, that actions and attitudes have consequences, and that's why we need to choose the right way. That sacrifice is the supreme value, to sacrifice for others, to put others ahead of yourself. That's the supreme value. That's what Jesus did when he came to earth, to become our high priest and to sacrifice himself. And if we're his disciples, then we'll make a primary value of the same. And then there's just the notion of seeing what's truly there, what is really important. And until we comprehend and yield to the truths of the Beatitudes, we're not really prepared to comprehend and to yield to the transformative power of the rest of the Sermon on the Mount. And so it's a necessary first step. We're going to follow this study up by going back to the Old Testament and looking at the Ten Commandments. And we're going to see parallels that we might not suspect are there. I really, really do believe Jesus going up on the mountain, sitting down in Moses' seat, and delivering the law, which begins with a short list, a list of concisely communicated values, is very much evoking the moment when Moses was on the mountain and receive the Ten Commandments. And I think when we layer one on top of the other, we're going to see more parallels than we might expect to see. So, next time we're together, we're going to begin our study of the Ten Commandments, not only from the book of Exodus, but also from the book of Deuteronomy. We'll pick up there next time. Thank you so much.